Until your desires become normalized, it will always seem like it is at a distance from yourself. You're always going to put it on some pedestal, make it so grand, and get overwhelmed by it, which is why it's important to normalize your desires. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how to normalize the fact that you are already a full-time creator, that you are already getting paid to exist, that you are already living the life that you deeply desire. I am Beyond Taylor, and I am here to help you go beyond your self-imposed limitations. I am a creative embodiment coach, and I help women blow up their income and impact. So let's get right into the video. Let's talk about normalizing your desires. This is going to be a really fun video, and I'm excited to dive into it. Yes. Actually, let's start off with a quote from Neville Goddard, right? Neville says, "All you can possibly need or desire is already yours. You need no helper to give it to you. It is yours now. Call your desires into being by imagining and feeling your wish fulfilled. As the end is accepted, you become totally indifferent as to possible failure. For acceptance of the end wills the mean to that end." The brilliant, the immaculate Neville Goddard. Yes. So in this video, we're going to be pretty much breaking down that quote and just making it a bit more science-based and more embodied, right? Because that's how you are going to normalize your desires, is by feeling it normal. And that's what Neville talks about all the time when he's saying feel it real. It's just like feel it normal. Like, what does normal feel like, right? So what we're first going to be talking about is when he says, you don't need a helper to give it to you. It is yours now. So we're first going to be talking about how you are not separate. You are not separate from your desires. That's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about. Then we're going to talk about how to imagine as if you already have it now, right? Because he says it's all about if you consistently imagine, right? Call your desires into being by imagining, feeling your wish fulfilled. So we're going to talk about imagining and feeling, which is really the embodiment work, like how to really feel your wish fulfilled. And then last but not least, we are going to be talking about practical steps to to stay in the wish fulfilled, which means to hold it, right? Because like he said, as the end is accepted, you become totally indifferent as to possible failure. For acceptance of the end wills the mean. So we're going to talk about how to accept it. Accept by habits. So this is going to be the breakdown of what this video is about. First, we're going to talk about you are not separate from your desires. Then we're going to talk about imagining, feeling, and then we're going to talk about accepting it by the habits. We're just going to break down that quote. So let's get right into the video. So first things first, let's talk about how you are actually not separate from your desire to be a full-time creative. Let's change up the marker. So you are quite literally not separate from your desire. Why? Because of this one understanding. I'm just going to block this off so that we just know what we're talking about. I'll probably erase that, but this is not important. So from this one understanding that everything is energy. Everything is energy. So when you understand this, you understand that everything is available to you in this moment. And you are energy. Everything is made out of what you are made out of. I won't go into that too much. I talk a lot about that, about you being the I am. There's so many other videos you can check out. But for now, I'm going to come from the understanding that you know how everything is energy and what that actually means to your creative journey. So let's imagine that this is you. And you are standing in the energetic field. The energetic field of possibilities is all around you. It is quite literally everything you see, the energetic field. Now, your reality is in one of these frequencies, is in one of these wavelengths. However, you are probably looking at the reality where it's not quite there yet. It doesn't mean that it's the other pieces. Let's say your perspective is pointed here. It doesn't mean all of this isn't there. It's absolutely there. You're just not seeing it. You're just seeing what you've been trained to see, but it's still there. This is what people mean when they say your desire is here now. If you look around the room right now, in this very moment, you are quite literally standing in the middle of your desire. You're just saying, but I don't see it yet. The reason you don't see it yet is because you are not attuned to the same frequency as it. You have not trained yourself to see it. You have been trained to see maybe lack, doubt, scarcity. These are what you have trained yourself to see. Well, not you, right? You didn't train yourself to see that, but your circumstances have led you to see this in the terms of your reality. So it's the lack from abundance, right? More than enough, that exists in the energy field. It's just training yourself to now turn your attention towards that, because it's here, it's here, it's here, it's here. But if your attention keeps going here, that's all you're going to see. And then you're going to be like, but I don't see it, but I don't see it. You're not trained to, because here's the thing. We are taking in, I want to say it's like 11 million bits of information at any given second. 11 million bits of information through our senses, through how we interact with the world, seeing, touching, smelling, tasting, and I forgot the last one. I feel like I always forget the last one, but this is how we are interpreting our experience. And it's 11 bits of information coming to us at one time. We are only registering 40 bits out of 11 million. That is such a small fragment. So it's not that it's not there. It's just that consciously our attention is only getting fixated on such a small amount. Now, what is that 40 bits of information that we are focusing on? It has everything to do with the way that you've been programmed, right? So you're in this energetic field. Everything is energy, and you are in this infinite field where everything is available to you. However, you are only focusing on 40 bits of information. So how is this done? How do you determine where your attention goes and on what information? That's all going to come down to the way that you were programmed, right? So let's think about very, 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 very beginning, and we're going to go to the nervous system. We're going to go to, let me erase this as well. We're going to go to the nervous system, because your nervous system is actually the thing that's filtering it. Your nervous system is your subconscious mind. We talk about the subconscious mind, and sometimes that can seem a little elusive. It can seem a little vague, too mystical, because where is the mind? Can you point to the mind? No, because your reality is your mind. Your reality is your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind just reflect, aware of it. But really what the subconscious mind comes down to is your nervous system. So when we're talking about, how the subconscious mind is formed, is through the sensory world. In your nervous system is just like how it's playing with the sensory world. So let's go to the nervous system, which is the subconscious mind. Nervous system equals subconscious mind. Okay, these two, they are not separate. So I want to read this quote from Michael Kahn. I think that's how you say his name, in his book, Whatever Arises, Love That. He says, until something new has been introduced and accepted by your subconscious mind, it can be overlooked or even seen invisible, even if it is appearing right in front of you. This is why if 4 people see a car accident, you'll get 4 different stories, because based on what is in their subconscious mind, which what they have been programmed with through their nervous system, is going to determine what they see. So then you get 4 different accounts. There will be some overlaps and similarities, but why isn't it that everybody is just saying, this is what I saw? Why is it that this person really picked up on the fact that there was a red truck a red wheel that flew in a thing, and then person B didn't even see a red truck because it didn't register, because the information was not introduced to their subconscious mind. So when it comes to you normalizing being a full-time creative, if in your subconscious mind you are not aware of abundance, success, actually let me write that down. If you are not aware of abundance, success, joy, right? If your subconscious is not familiarized, patterned with these states, which is just, if we go to the consciousness wheel, I'll put that up. These are just like those higher states of consciousness. If you are not registered or attuned to this, then you won't see it. Then you'll consistently see how, things are not working out for you, how people aren't supporting you. You'll be, and what this is going to look like is the actions of like being inconsistent, starting and stopping things, not being able to feel like you can be your full authentic self in your content or in your offers, not believing in yourself or in your offers. That's nothing to do with whether or not you believe you're worthy. It's just because you have not been programmed with the right codes. We think coding this whole time, and I'm going to start really integrating that language into the way that I talk, because I think that's going to be so much more easier to understand and digest if you could just think about it as a code. And you have access to all codes, and they can all be downloaded within you. You hear people say, oh, I got a download. What is a download? It's simply a code. And then it's simply the way that your nervous system registers that code and starts to rewire itself. So this is the coding that we want to input into you within this video, and with all my videos. I'm literally programming you. I'm coding you with the codes of success, where before you did not have the codes of success. Why? Probably because of circumstances that, you've experienced in your life. So if you've been conditioned to tune into fear, shame, right? Maybe this has been the code for a very long time. Fear, shame, doubt, right? If this becomes your coding, then of course it's going to be difficult to see the energy fields of this, because again, going back to your attention is just being tuned to this. So you consciously, when we talk about that 40 bits of information, well, what is that 40 bit of information picking up on your patterns? What you have been turning your attention to: fear, shame, doubt. You just see all of that in your reality. And even though you're standing in the midst of abundance, joy, and success, you haven't been trained to go there. So that's exactly what we are, going to do. Because it's all about what's familiar. So, for example, let's say you are showing up, right? Because we're talking about how you are not separate from your desires. So you already have access to the audience that you desire, to the wealth that you desire, to the community that you desire. It's already in your energy field. You're not separate from it. It is where you are. It's just about learning how to see it, right? So that's kind of going to go into the imagining. And one last thing I want to say about how you are not separate from your desires, and just the why you can't see it, is because of the fact that your nervous system, the subconscious mind, is protecting you. Because imagine if you did see 11 million bits of information at once, it would be very disorienting. You wouldn't really know where you begin and where everything else ends, and not in a grounded way, right? When you practice self-inquiry and learn the truth of who you are, that becomes, more evident as the conditioned mind starts to settle down. But if you just kind of go into that without doing this layer of work, then it would be disorienting. Another quote from Michael Kahn is what he says when it comes to this is: one vital reason the nervous system expels potential possibilities out of your view is to assist you in having experiences that you are able to handle. If the blinder suddenly came off, your consciousness would expand so quickly that you'd be disoriented and confused by the multi-dimensional nature of reality. In many ways, you'd be unable to function in such a state. It would be like living in a hallway of mirrors, not knowing which reflection is yours. While the radiance of your true nature always lives in every form, your nervous system regulates experiences, allowing your consciousness to welcome the arrival of greater possibilities, but in a way that is both natural, right? Normal, and ever revealing. Okay. So that is why it can seem like you are separate from your desires, just because your nervous system does not want to overwhelm you. And it's because it's just to enjoy the journey of becoming, to enjoy the journey of knowing yourself as the I am. Like Neville always says, God became man so that man may become God. And that it doesn't happen like this, because if it does, most people, they tend to go crazy to discover that all of reality is the self. It's like, how can we trickle this in? And hopefully this is, kind of nurtured to as a kid, but for most people that just typically doesn't happen. And for you, that didn't happen. You didn't get the codes of abundance, success, and joy, or you wouldn't be watching this video. If you had received those codes, you would already know how to align with your desired reality of being a full-time creator. But because you're watching this video, you're like, well, how can I do this? How can I normalize this? And it's because you have these codes. And we're going to talk about how these codes are formed. And then we're going to talk about the imagining and feeling part, which is, we're going to talk about how these are formed. So this is the feeling part, going into the body, about how to reprogram this. So let's get right into it. Let's get right into it. Is that causing you anxiety when I bounce like that? Because I really like to bounce. I hope y'all can see this. If not, then I'll end up blowing this up in the editing. But this is where we are right now. So boom, 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 boom. So we just talked about that, how you are not separate from your desires, because everything is energy and is available in this quantum field of everything. But the only reason why you can't see that is because you have been patterned through your nervous system, through experiences that you encountered, to focus on, with that 40 bits of information, that limited bit of conscious awareness that you have, to focus on what you've been focusing on. So I always like to say, go to, as a kid, because that's when you got programmed, right? So if you are constantly experiencing blocks, right, you're posting, you're creating, you even have a product or a service that you're offering, but you're still inconsistent, you're still questioning yourself, doubting yourself, right? It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you lack the passion. It's not because you're not meant to do this thing. That has nothing to do with it. It's just your nervous system protecting you from visibility without guarantees. Right? Because that can feel scary to the body. So when you're thinking about your desires, they don't feel normal, because what's normal to you is what you've registered based on an experience that you had. So, for example, something that you probably registered is, let's say that you registered, when you were a kid, you put yourself out there. Right? This is you as a kid, and you put yourself out there, maybe in front of a large crowd, and you messed up. You were performing, la la la. You were performing and you messed up, and then everybody started laughing. Ha 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 ha. When everybody started laughing, you registered that within your body as, ooh, this does not feel good. I'm already messed up. And now the response from it is embarrassment. Your nervous system registered that as visibility. I feel like I botched that. Does not equal safety. So now, when you are going, and this is just one example, so many examples of how this could have happened. If you try to, show a parent a creation piece of yours and it was ignored. If you, learned something new and you tried to show a caregiver, look at this new skill that I did. Look at me, or just look at me, period. Can you look at me? Can you see me? I'm crying for your attention. And if your cries were often ignored, then you start to register that visibility does not equal safety. So your body is saying, why would we want to be seen online? Why would we want to be seen trying, right? Because this is being seen trying to do something when it doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good. And when it doesn't feel good, we shut down. So in order to prevent the shutting down, we're just going to avoid that altogether. And we're just going to, continue what we're doing, whatever it is that you're doing. So that's why it can look like when you're starting a project, it doesn't get done. Because your body remembers what happened the last time you put yourself out there. And it's protecting you from that. Your body loves you. Your nervous system loves you. Everything that it's doing is about self-protection. It's not because it's trying to sabotage you. I don't like that word, self-sabotage, because it has a very negative connotation, as if you're doing something wrong. You're against yourself. You are not against yourself. You are actually protecting yourself. It's self-protection. It is not self-sabotage. So that's why it looks like starting a product, a business, your social media account, and not having consistency. No consistency. It's just safety. That's all this is about. It's just, or protection. All this is about is like, I need to protect myself from experiencing that level of pain or hurt again. And the way to do that is just by not even taking action. That's why the action seems so jarring, right? It seems so weighted, so heavy to go after the things that you want, because you're fighting against your body. You're fighting against the way that you have been surviving for a very long time, which is by staying hidden. Because if you stay hidden, nobody's going to laugh at you. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to, do the things that there's so much fear around. So what we want to do is start to imagine and start to practice feeling safe, even in the things that we've learned not to feel safe in. Okay? So this is a lot of the work that I do with my clients. It's kind of like exposure therapy, where I expose them to very familiar triggers within their environment. Because what happens is that when the trigger appears and after this video, you'll become more aware of it. But up until this point, maybe you haven't been aware of it. But when the trigger appears, your body is going to tell you exactly what's going on, because your body's going to either expand or it's going to contract. And if you're contracting, then that's letting you know that this isn't an area that you feel like safe in. This isn't an area of your life that you should proceed with, which is why when that contraction appears within the body, we have these responses in the nervous system, which is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And all of these experiences still keep the pattern alive. The pattern of stimuli is out, which maybe the stimuli looks like getting ready to post, getting ready to create. And then all of a sudden, and it happens so fast too, the brain quick with it. So it happens so fast, you don't even register it in the brain, but you can feel it in the body, which is why this is so important to become aware of it within the body. Like, what are you feeling? I'm always asking my clients, like, what are you feeling? I understand the stories that you tell them, but let's just go to the feeling, so that, because the stories will change. The stories are very clever. They will consistently change, but that feeling is consistent. That feeling is an indicator. That feeling is your map that something is off. So when you can go to the feeling and you can say, oh, there's a change in my breath. There's a change in my heartbeat. I'm sweating a bit much. I'm hyper vigilant right now, right? When you can start to be mindful of what's going on in the body, then you can understand that a trigger, a stressor is present. That's all it is. It's like a stressor is present. And then you can see yourself in real time. Just notice it. Like, how am I going to respond to the stressor? And usually how you respond to the stressor is in one of these 4 ways. And all of these are going to keep it alive. All of these are going to keep the patterns alive. So if the stressor is posting and you check and nobody's commenting and nobody's looking at it, what fight looks like is like fighting with your thoughts. Oh my God, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough, whatever. And maybe even in your mind, you might say like, this is okay. I know this is a part of the process, but your body doesn't agree. So that's a form of fighting too, is lying to yourself, saying one thing but feeling another. That doesn't feel good, and it's going to keep it alive because you're pretty much suppressing, which is what freeze is about. Freeze is just like suppressing and numbing. And none of this is to shame you, because these are learned behaviors. You're not doing this consciously. Sometimes you can do it consciously, but even then, I feel like you're like, none of this is done consciously, because if you were truly able to be conscious in these moments where these stressors are appearing, then you would choose differently. You're just going to what you know. It's just a pattern that you just kept doing over and over and over again. And then your brain just registered that. And the brain is all about shortcuts. So when that stressor appears, it's not sitting there like, oh, well, how can I make sure that we do what we want to do in this life? No, it's like, what did we do last time? Okay, let's just do that again. So this is not because, anything's wrong with you. It's just a pattern that you picked up. So what flight looks like is, running, distracting, which is also still keeping it alive. It takes a lot of energy to run and distract. You're not addressing it. And then fawning is just like people pleasing, just doing what you need to do in order to be accepted, which means you're still not addressing what wants to be addressed, which is the feeling in the body just wants to be witnessed. That sensation in the body just wants to be expressed, and then it wants to move through you. But all these things that you're doing is kind of like pushing it down, stuffing it away, choosing not to look at it. And it's still there. It's still there, constantly going to be calling your attention. Carl Jung says, when we don't make the unconscious conscious, we call it fate, and it rules our life. This is what's happening to you when it comes to your creative career. You have these responses to your stimuli that is keeping you from consistently showing up as the version of you who has what you desire, consistently keeping you from relaxing, because when you're in these states, you are in high stress states too. So your body cannot relax. And when your body cannot relax, you cannot feel it real, and you cannot imagine. This is why, a lot of the work goes into getting you, when we're talking about imagining, is going into let's imagine this is a brain. This is the brain. A lot of the work is about getting you to get into more of a, and this is where a lot of your thoughts are being fired. But a lot of this work is about getting you to get into a more relaxed state. Because when you are, then the conscious mind is down, which means your stressors are not as present. So we want to get you, typically you're in like beta, which is high, problem solving, logic. You're typically in these states, problem solving, logic, future thinking. You are in this state most of the time that you are awake. So the whole point of getting you to go into more of a theta state is all about relaxing, because the brain slows down. It slows down the brain wave so that now your thoughts can enter the subconscious mind, or it can enter the body. Because when you practice feeling as if you already have it, then what happens is that neural connections in the brain, they start to get stronger. So now when you see this thing, your desire as being a full-time creator, the response is to feel abundant, which is why feeling is so important too when you're visualizing. Because when this is triggered, when you practice imagining in this state where the beta mind is not as active, when this gets, when you desire it, then now these neurons start wiring together, and right, neurons that wire together, fire together. So now when this happens in your world, when you think about your desire or see something in response to your desire, instead of going into panic, which means that you don't have it, it's normalized to you, because when you think about it, you feel abundant, and you feel, and what does abundance feel like? It feels like calm, it feels like peace. It's that becomes very normalized. So where before, when desire gets triggered, you're going into, and I'm just going back here because this is like the stress part of the brain, this gets triggered. So before, for a long time, these have been wiring together. Where you think about your desire, this gets triggered, which sends you into high stress levels. And then you go into one of these. And that's going to happen in the beta state because you're just thinking about what you already did. So it's just that's been a pattern for a really long time to just go there. But now when you are in this theta state, You're more relaxed. The beta mind can shut the hell up. So that means that this can shut up, and you're training yourself to go into feeling abundant. So then this gets stronger, this gets weaker. Any connections in the brain that you don't use over and over again, the connection gets weaker. So then now this becomes the new unconscious habit. And when that becomes a new unconscious habit, then it's normalized. Let's think about something like driving. When you drive somewhere, you can do a million things and drive because it's normalized. When you first learned how to drive, you couldn't do that because you were really focused on learning how to drive. But then eventually you're like, oh, I know how to do this. It's because it got normalized and because it went into the unconscious, which is the subconscious. Because the nervous system correlated that with safety. So we want to do the same thing with what you're doing, which is why going into these relaxed states, which you can do through meditation, mindfulness, walking, yoga. I mean, there's so many things you can do to relax yourself. You know how to relax yourself. If you do that consistently and you get yourself into this relaxed state, which is in the best state to do it is like right before you waking up and right when you go to sleep. That's when the brain is the most receptive to send information to the subconscious mind. Then you start to imagine as if you are already a full-time creative. What would that look like if you were already a full-time creative? How would you feel? Who would congratulate you? Because you are sending signals to the brain that it already happened. And then again, it forms those new connections in the mind. And then the feeling becomes easy because just telling you to feel as if you already have it when you are in these states, when you are in high stress, that is a disadvantage to you because you don't know how to feel as if it already happened because the brain is programmed to go right to stress. And it happens so fast. I was in a meditation earlier and I was looking at this, I was doing like an open eye meditation and it was a fly that flew by and immediately my brain went, oh, that's a fly. It happened so fast. And it's crazy because the brain is the last to get the information, right? Our senses interact with this raw data. It gets it gets turned into electrical signals, the energy, the raw energy that we are in. This energetic field. All of this is just getting signal to the brain, which is enclosed in darkness. It has no idea about anything. It's literally just making its best guess all the time. So by the time the information gets to the brain just has these electrical signals. And it's like, oh, what do these electrical signals mean? Oh, a fly. And it happens so fast. Like by the time I saw it, my brain went, that's a fly. And that's how fast your reality, your brain is like creating your experience like so quickly. So that's why it's important to be able to slow it down because then you'll see that that's actually not a fly. It's like infinite potentiality. And that's whatever I say it is. And if I believe that long enough and I start to form these connections about what that means, it completely changes the identity of what that is. And it will completely change the identity of who you are. Okay, so that's the importance of feeling. That's the importance of imagining in these states. And then something else that I do, and I'm gonna talk about it briefly because we already at 32 minutes, which is, I did not want this to be that long. So something else I want to talk about real quick, just real quick. Real quick, baby. Real quick. Is the same way you can imagine yourself in the state of your ideal reality, which is being a full-time creative. You can imagine yourself in the embarrassment too, because then you start to teach yourself how to respond to the stress. So where before, like I said, with those connections, I should have kept the brain up here. Before you were responding to the stress by fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Now, in those moments, you teach yourself that like, I'm going to, and this is what I do with my clients. We literally trigger the worst case scenario. We trigger the feelings that come up when as resistance and blocks, and then we repattern it in that moment. So let's say we trigger self-doubt. And usually when self-doubt appears, what that looks like, the action, which is just so unconscious, it's so habitual because it was learned, the action will look like shutting down, or over explaining, or like you just going overboard because you really want people to understand, to get it, right? So that becomes the action. So now what we do is we trigger self-doubt by going into scene that would imply that this is happening. We go into the body. So this is the old way. This is the old way, or the habitual way. This is habitual. So now what we do is we trigger self-doubt and then we relax into it. Relax into the sensation in the body. We go right to the body. I don't want to hear the story. I don't care about why it happened. I don't care. Like, not to say that we don't talk about that stuff, but when we're doing these practices, I don't care. I just want you to go to the sensation. And then once we go to the sensation, what we then do is go to the end. And then we create a sensation in the end. And then we take an action to solidify that. To solidify the identity and to solidify the pattern within the brain. Because before, this was the response, trigger, action. Now this is the response, trigger, action. The new action is the action that's in alignment with desire. So if before that looked like shutting down or over explaining, now it looks like doing exactly what you desire to do, even more, and shutting up. and you just teach yourself how to do that over and over. Oh, this stimuli. So then when you're in the real world, you see they're like, oh, this feels familiar. Oh, I know what this is. And then watch yourself. Oh, what am I going to do in this moment? I see what I'm doing. I could choose differently. I can relax into that, which is what the beyond self ritual is. Again, we'll get into that in the next video. And the last one is just like, you accept it. Like Neville was saying, you accept it, right? As the end is accepted, you become totally indifferent as to possible failure, for acceptance of the end wills the means to that end. So when you accept it by feeling as if you already have it now, because you're learning how to relax, because you're learning how to respond to your triggers and you're taking action in it, then you trust that if you consistently do this over and over again, then now that energy field that you were in, where you were focusing on doubt, lack, you were in this field of shame, lack, and doubt, from just consistently following the path over and over again, now all of a sudden you become aware of your reality. You don't have to go anywhere to do it. It's always been within you. You were just focused on something else. But it wasn't you. You weren't doing it on purpose. It was just your brain. It was the way your brain was wired. So this is like the rewiring work. And this is how to make Neville's work start to make much more sense. Is when you can understand it from a neurological level, when you can understand the science of it, right? So it's really going to get solidified by the actions. And yeah, that's it. I'll talk more about the system that I created for you all to really be able to do this in real time, and then to start to have the habits that align with your ideal reality, so that when you just consistently are in this state, you feel as if you already have it, because you've been practicing through visualization and through exposure, therapy in a way, understanding you're not separate, and then by the habit. So if this is something that you're interested in, I do have a mastermind called Thriving Creator, and we talk exactly about what we're talking about here, right? How to blow up your income and your impact by feeling safe within your body and infusing that with the strategy work of stepping into your ideal self now. So that's something that you're interested in. The links are down below. I also have my free community, Confident Creator, where we are in Quantum Jumping June right now, and the ladies in there are literally quantum leaping. They are quantum leaping. So if that's something that you're interested in, sign up. We have another call in about 2 weeks. And yeah, I think that's all the promo that I have. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.